Good morning. This is Dr. John Bennett broadcasting from Miami Beach, home of Neurosurgical TV. I have the honor today of hosting a webcast about the Chinese Neurosurgical Journal, the international or English edition. We here at Neurosurgical TV cover most of the countries by webcasting in education, and this is part of our education. So first, I'll introduce Wan Li from Beijing Tiatin Hospital. He's going to run the show. Welcome, Wan Li.
Hi, thank you, John. Hello, everyone. Tonight, we start our special channel from the Neurosurgical TV. Tonight, we will have some speakers to introduce the Chinese Neurosurgical Journal. It's an English language version journal to talk about everything about neurosurgery. But it's it named is Chinese journal, but actually it's an international journal, and we cooperated with the international publisher, the Biomed Central Spring Nature publisher. So tonight, first we would like to invite Dr. John Bernard to give some introduction about this neurosurgical TV. Okay, John.
Sure, thank you very much. Yeah, we started basically 6 years ago using the video platform of Google Hangouts, who was a predecessor of what we know as Zoom. Zoom started in about 2018. It started impacting. Once that started, the demand for videos was increased by 20 times. It went up 200%, the use of Zoom. And people got used to it. And now we have webcasts from South America, not too many from Europe, India, Pakistan, and Africa. And we welcome the connection with the Chinese Neurosurgical Journal, and we hope to expose to the publishing world of neurosurgery what they do. It can do nothing but help discussion in neurosurgery and improve neurosurgery, I think, in all areas, to be able to include China more closely to the West. And I feel that the use of this video platform is an excellent way. It makes it personal. You get to know the people. I know a lot of the people on the panel. I'm just a regular doctor, not a neurosurgeon, but I've met the finest neurosurgeons in the world. And one thing I've seen that neurosurgeons are like, because I was not trained as a neurosurgeon, but I could see neurosurgeons love to teach. This part of the DNA, I think, of a neurosurgeon. They just love to teach. They always seem to find time. And of course, there's work first, but of course, there's always room for education. So thank you, Wan Li. I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you, John. So now we start this special webinar, and it will be hosted by Professor Bing Xu from Shanghai Huashan Hospital and me. So at first, I would like to give a short introduction about this journal on behalf of Professor Zhizong Zhao, the editor-in-chief of this journal. He's supposed already online, but seems there's still some small problem with the internet connection. So never mind, we can just start introduction and wait him online. So this Chinese Neurosurgical Journal start. Let me see. Yeah, this is a this is a new journal start in year 2015, and it's published every 3 weeks. So the publisher is Chinese Medical Association, and co-publisher is our Beijing Tiantan Hospital and also the Chinese Neurosurgical Society. And we cooperated with the Biomed Center of Springer Nature. And it served as an academic forum for not only Chinese neurosurgeons, but also the international neurosurgeons, especially for young neurosurgeons for the communication. And this is our editor board. We have the editor-in-chief is the Professor Zhizong Zhao. He's academician of Chinese Academy of Science, and also the department chairman of Beijing Tiantan Hospital. So we have Dr. Yuha here, and we also have some other famous neurosurgeon like Professor Poon is also our deputy editor-in-chief, and then some other famous neurosurgeon like Professor Takashi Kawas, and Professor Spetzer, Professor Henry Brown from Johns Hopkins. And we published, we have the submission start from 2015, and now there are around 200 submissions every year, and we can last year we published 50 articles. So the acceptance rate is about 20-30%. That's the monthly data. We just have, it seems that we have more submission during September, October. And the article types, for the all submissions, we have 307 case report and accept 71, and we have a research article 371 and accept 135, and review article 105 submission and 46 accepted. So this is the submission by country. We have about 60% from mainland China, but we also have 5% from United States, 4% from India, and then other countries like Turkey, Indonesia, Egypt, Pakistan, Russian Federation, and others. According to the internet visiting data from the Biomed Center website, now we have more than 300,000 visiting for our online published articles. So since we have already be accepted by the PubMed Central, so it's more easy to get the full text articles. So here is the top 10 accessed articles in all the years. So like a minimal invasive surgery approach to the treatment of piriformis syndrome. This is a case series. We have more than 60,000 downloads, and some others like drug treatment of vasospasm after subarachnoid hemorrhage following aneurysm. So it focused on every subspecialties of neurosurgery. This is the citation We, according to the Web of Science data, we have start from 2017, we have citation for our published articles. So this is the top 10 cited articles published in all the years. So the most the article have the most citation is the treatment, drug treatment of cerebral vasospasm after subarachnoid hemorrhage following aneurysm. And we have some others from Hong Kong, from United States, and from Japan. Here is the top 10 cited articles published in year 2020 and 2021. The prevalence of freezing of gained in Parkinson's disease and in patients with different disease duration and severities. This is from I think it's from Tiantan Hospital, yeah, and some others. So our journal currently covered by the following database like DOAJ, the Google Scholar, PubMed, and PubMed Central, and Scoops. The H5 index for the Google Scholar, it's increased from 4 to 8 in 2020. And according to the site score 2020, we have 0.6 score of the citation rank. The submission by the country or region, you can see we have more than 50% from China, but also 40 from United States, 36 from India, and Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Indonesia, Egypt, Pakistan, Russia, Germany, Colombia, Nepal, United Kingdom, Bangladesh, Brazil, Cote d'Ivoire, Italy, Japan, and Hong Kong. This is the accepted article by the country or region, the similar data. So for online submission, we use the editormanager.com. So it's a very popular website for most of the scientific journals. And our homepage is cnjournal.biomedcentral.com. So all the published article can be downloaded with the full text. It's a open access journal, and currently we waive the APC, so that the authors do not need to pay any money for their published articles. So yeah, this is just a brief introduction, and we encourage more neurosurgeons all around the world to submit your articles to this journal. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Yuan Li.
Professor Shi, yeah.
So we discussed with Professor Zhao Jizong and Yuan Li, and we were invited the authors of the articles to introduce their work in this neurosurgical TV platform. So now today we have a lot of distinguished guests, like Professor Atoko Bennett, Professor Lenzino from Mayo Clinic, and today we also have two deputy chief editor, Professor Pan Weisheng and Professor Yuhan Hanisnemi. So now we invited Professor Pan Weisheng to have some presentation.
Thank you. Let me share the screen.
Perfect, perfect.
Can you see the screen and hear me talking?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I will start by thanking Professor Zhao and Professor Zhao Jr. to invite me, and also Professor Xu to allow me to share with you my some of my views on being reviewing papers for the last 20 plus years. And sometimes it's rather uncertain because I may not know the stuff that well. And sometimes it's been a pleasure to see good papers. So it's really a personal sharing and nothing very scientific. So I'm not working in Shenzhen. So this is the hospital in the bottom here where I'm working now. I used to be working in Hong Kong for 35 years, having qualified from Glasgow in 1986. Now, to jump into the content of this 20 minutes sharing, to be a scientific peer review person, the essential job is really to evaluate each manuscript that comes through, its competence in presenting, the significance of the research project and its originality. And this kind of peer review for science originated in those private clubs in England, like the Royal Society. John Hunter was a little junior faculty at the time, and he had to be peer reviewed before he can present it to the big boys. So basically today, editor-in-chief or its section chief will be selecting appropriate reviewers for each manuscript that comes through. And the reviewer, if they have accepted the request out of his belief that his own expertise will do the job well, and that he's prepared to do it ethically without bias. And the timeliness is also important. It's usually being requested to be done within 2 to 3 weeks. And looking back, the first reported peer review in medicine actually happened in the Royal Society in Edinburgh in 1731. And that's been described by Sir Jefferson when he was around. So that's been a long time, this business of peer review, which is so important to every journal, especially the upcoming journals, like our Chinese Journal of Neurosurgery. Now, so to describe the established practice, when I was a medical student in 1976 in Glasgow, Lancet was not peer reviewed regularly. So I still remember in those days when I was helping the Australian fellows who was working in Glasgow to get promoted. I was participating in the project and helping them to typewrite. You know, in those days we used typewriters, and of course the word processor wasn't around in those days. So we typed one sheet of paper. Any mistake, we will have to retype it altogether. So it's quite a tedious thing. And so in the 1970s, it was just I remember the paper was accepted, and it was only a few words, and it took only 2 or 3 weeks. So in those days, without peer review, the internal editorial board did it very efficiently. And so that was how I witnessed it starting as a medical student. JAMA, the premium GP journal in the US, has been around those days also as you wish thing. So it's dependent on the internal editorial board. In contrast, the BMJ started their peer review in 1893 from external experts outside the editorial board. So you can see the history that peer review wasn't really an established practice as it is today. And it becomes an established practice only in the last maybe 40, 50 years. And it's now becoming the norm. Way back in more than 10 years ago, when 4,000 authors were reviewed or questionnaire, majority think that thought that, or 84% thought that it was essential to have it because that will improve their papers quality, where 91% of the authors think that that was the case, that every peer review process actually improved the quality of their final product. And but only 69% were satisfied with what was happening, some with argument, some without, some majority are still happy, but minority not so happy. Now, my personal route, I've described part of that in the 1970s as a student through the Lancet and through JNNP, surgical neurology, and general neurosurgery and injury, etc. in the 1980s. In those days, when as a young faculty, when the paper was submitted, and as a young faculty, we waiting for the reply from the editor-in-chief. I still remember Ed Law was the editor-in-chief of Neurosurgery, and he wrote me back to say that, oh, this paper was not accepted, cannot be accepted in its own form, and has to do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so at that time, as an inexperienced and anxious young neurosurgeon, I was very upset. But in fact, that is an encouraging letter because it says that, well, it means that the editorial board is interested in the material, and there were a lot of things that you have to rewrite, and that's actually the prerequisite of accepting the paper. So of course nowadays most young authors know that if you receive that letter without saying rejection, you're okay, and there's a lot of hope to improve it. And I started the occasional reviewing in the 1990s, and also at the turn of the century, I have been privileged to join some of the prestigious editorial board. And so when there are too many papers to review, we have to learn to obey these rules that I will only accept reviewing paper within my comfort zone of my expertise. Anything outside, I would decline, or if I do not have time at the time because of writing grants or doing my own things, then I will decline early sending my apology. And most papers, if they were interesting paper, can be reviewed within a few days if you can set the time for it. So I'm still doing some of these work and enjoying every minute. I just want to take an example of a paper that was reviewed last year on a very important issue of changing practice. There's a big series is an RCT wanting to prove that medical treatment is actually better than surgery. So that's an important study that will change practice. And but you can see that the big boy journal, the review is very simple. You only look at whether the originality is good, whether the scientific accuracy is good, whether the composition is good, and whether the material of the study of the manuscript will interest the mass of the readers. So if you are scoring 4 or 5, then the chances are that the editor-in-chief will be very difficult to reject this paper. And with minor or major revision, and this paper should be published I provided my other reviewer agree. So only 2 reviewers, and sometimes an in-house statistical reviewer, and that will be forming the decision-making platform for the editor-in-chief. And so that's just to share with you how you can use your time very efficiently to review some of these very important paper. In the older days, like James Parkinson in 1817, he doesn't need to go through any review process because he's got the resources to write his own book. So this essay on shaking palsy is published as a little monograph, although he has already presented it in the learned societies. So that's just in contrast. Now, the reviewers putting in a lot of their time voluntarily, and how do they get recognized? So that is a very important point. And some of the journal will mention their name at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year in one of their issues, 1 or 2 pages, a list of reviewers that they have thanked. And some journal will allow them or to send them copies of the hard copies of the journals or online access to the journal. And some will send them a letter of appreciation. And some will be more IT, like the Poblons. And like the Union Journal of Medicine, they will allow you or put the work into their recognized CME activities. Our journal, the Chinese Neurosurgical Journal, is very good at putting the list of reviewers that they have thanked in the web page, and I think that's very good. A recent paper we published with my PhD student in Frontier actually have the reviewer's name on the first page. And I think that's probably a very good thing that some of the journal can consider doing, because that would put the reviewers on the hot seat, that they really have to review the paper very seriously, because their name is on it and they are part of this research project. And the experience is very good, except that it's not easy to make an IT platform that is friendly to have a reviewers forum that the reviewer and the authors can communicate. And that is an ideal thing, but the platform has to be better than what it is now. And that's what I find. Okay, finally, a few concluding remarks would be the majority of us are both authors and reviewers sometimes. So how to be a good reviewer, to have a good quality review, and the timeliness to do it quickly within 2 weeks. Both of these two elements are important to the authors, to the editor-in-chief of the journal, and also the profession at large. And we should accept with pleasure, and if time and expertise are both available, and without the conflict of interest. But if time and expertise is not there, then we should decline. And so here I would salute to all the reviewers that peer reviews. It is indeed a noble job, and I would like to share with you, and I would like to acknowledge thanking the editorial board, Yuan Li and Xu Bin and academician Zhao and the editorial board for tolerating some of our reviewers and authors that needs disciplining. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Pan Wei-Shen. And we thank you for your introduce journal and your own experience. And we also hope you can pick the speakers from this journal, and we also want to from your own experience of the neurosurgical work. So now let's invite the Professor Juha Hönösniemi give us a presentation. He is also the deputy chief editor of this journal.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. This is first time I'm speaking from Helsinki, usually with John Bennett. I have joined from Zhengzhou, from China, but now I have been some months in Helsinki, Finland, to finish my book on my memories, and I have good help here. Dr. Retsai Behnam Jahromi, my PhD student, is helping me to connect. So I speak about bilateral international learning in neurosurgery. Actually, I should speak about multilateral learning, because I have learned so much from many, and this is multilateral international learning. So from my background, I didn't come inside Helsinki Medical Faculty in 1966. So I went to study medical science in Zurich, and this was the big thing in my life. So because it changed my life. And then After finishing my medical studies in Zurich, 1973, I specialized in neurosurgery, became specialist in neurosurgery. 79, made PhD also on difficult severe head injuries, and then spent 17 years in Kuopio, Eastern Finland, and was chairman 18 years in Helsinki until 2015. After that, I have been 6 years around, main part in China, in Zhengzhou, Henan Provincial People's Hospital. So this year, I have 50 years in neurosurgery, and I will speak about that. I note there are many old friends there in audience. I'm sorry I have to show slides you have seen many times already, but it is only one life, so you cannot show all the time new things. Now this is first I show here. This is the world map that was on the operation room in the Helsinki wall, and during my time, 18 years, since 1997, there were more than 3,000 visitors around the world. That time, it was some kind of mecca of neurosurgery. All the people came to learn from Helsinki school. So you see also that there are many people, of course, mainly from Europe, but also faraway countries, even from Australia, and many Chinese and Japanese came also to visit Helsinki, and I had more than 100 fellows there. And I have to say that I traveled a lot, close to 1,000 times in those years. So I have been in most countries there. I was invited also to North Korea, but then the pandemic came and I couldn't come, and I doubt I will never go there. But this is the changing of the experience. So many came, but I went also to most of those places here, also into India, many places. So why so many people came in this time to this old, small, lousy hospital? The big building is founded 1932, and the smaller part, newer part, 1958. Nearly all the neurosurgical clinics I have visited look better, but the people didn't come to take a look on the facilities or houses. They came to see good, effective teamwork. And we have to remember always that no one can do surgery alone. Also by writing in this, the same thing, usually a group, a team is writing those scientific articles. But we had excellent and effective team in Helsinki, and the visitors came to learn and went home and made the same. So the idea I noted during my time that it is old myth that neurosurgery should be endless and tiresome. And me and my team, we noted that you can do everything simple, clean, preserving normal anatomy. Clean means fast, so you can do many neurosurgical operations a day in one room. And this was the principle. So I think most of the visitors were impressed by neuroanesthesia, and then the quick change of the patients. When one operation finished, then the second one was soon in the operation room with an effective team. So this was simple, fast, clean, while preserving normal anatomy. This was our motto, and this was followed in the most operations. More than 16,000 operations I made in Kuopio and Helsinki. And where is Finland? Finland is the most northern corner of Europe. Down, green, in the middle of Europe is Switzerland. There is Zurich, the place I made my medical studies, and Finland has close border to Russia, 1,300 kilometers, and this is very important at this moment of the Ukrainian war. And between Finland and China, there is only one country. This is Russia. Russia is huge. So let's go back to the beginning. This is 1966. Here I am with my friend, Remi Korpela, and me, after failing failing to come inside Helsinki Medical Faculty, we didn't lose our courage. You see that we are looking to the future, smiling, and with blue eyes, like we say in Finland. We didn't know what is coming. So, how to become a good neurosurgeon, international neurosurgeon, famous neurosurgeon? I tell my story here and give some hints for training. Look around when you are young, want to become a neurosurgeon, look around. You have to find heroes. You have to find mentors who support you, and you cannot do anything alone. You need friends in neurosurgery to become a good neurosurgeon. And I never saw a person who wanted to be a bad neurosurgeon. So I speak to become a neurosurgeon now. These were my heroes. Here in this picture in Chicago, 1988, famous picture. In Zurich, when studying medical science, I saw already Professor Jasarkil there. And here Professor Jasarkil, my hero, and other hero, late Professor Charlie Drake, are together in Chicago making cadaver dissection. And what I learned from both, they told, work hard, learn anatomy. Learn anatomy. This is extremely important in neurosurgery. In Zurich, there was extremely good anatomical teaching when I was medical student. Professor Chayan Tönderi, 1969, I remember he was shouting, medical study is a lifetime work, anatomy even more. And the last part of this sentence is extremely true, because it takes more than a lifetime to learn good anatomy. So this was Professor Chayan Tönderi in Zurich, 1968. And he was heavy teacher, demanding teacher, but I learned a lot. And he had written an anatomy book, Topographische Anatomie. This is the book I have here at home. I have read it 55 years because you never learn enough anatomy. It looks like that. Topographical Anatomy. This is German language by Chayan Tönderi. So I have read anatomy, but I don't know the anatomy well. So, and when I studied medical science in Zurich, so I went to research. There was a Brain Research Institute in Zurich. Can you hear me? Please tell me if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes,
we can hear you.
Yes,
Okay,
we
good.
can hear.
Because there was an announcement. So this is from the Brain Research Institute, the picture 1969. So I was learning to brain anatomy of rat and cat and made stereotactic operations on these animals. Professor Etsuro Kawana from Japan was there. His English was not so very good, but I learned my English from him. and from Miss Helen Brubacher was laboratory technician. So in Brain Research Institute in Zurich, there were 20 different nationalities doing research, speaking English mainly, and so my English learning was coming there. So this is old picture, and this is from the operation room in Brain Research Institute, 1969. I'm doing a brain operation on rat or cat, and Professor Etsuro Kavanagh is watching. And what is important here, I learned to use the microscope, 1969. This is OPMI1. This was maybe from the 3 years in the Brain Research Institute, the most important thing that I learned, besides one paper that was published in Acta Anatomica. So I learned to use the microscope there, and then I made finished my medical studies. And then besides that, from the Brain Institute, we went to Leningrad. Nowadays it is St. Petersburg. This is 1969. Also there was Congress of Anatomy, World Congress of Anatomy. This picture is in front of the famous Pavlov Institute. The director is in the middle, besides Professor Konrad Ackert, Etsuro Kavanagh, my girlfriend at that time, and me. After giving a lecture, 6 minutes lecture, and there were maybe 10 people to listen. But I was very proud of my lecture because 3 girls came to ask autogram after my lecture. So I was very happy after my first lecture, international lecture. And this is what I saw then when I noted that I'm not able to do lifetime basic research. This lonely job I saw was working in the clinics, and then I was thinking I will use the knowledge of brain anatomy to become a neurosurgeon. This is Professor Hugo Krayenbühl. He's the chairman of Professor Krayenbühl, and he was very impressive lecturer. He was speaking loud and had nice jokes when he was speaking, but he was also very strong. There was very strong discipline, and under this strong discipline, Professor Yasakil developed his tremendous career. I learned also when I began neurosurgery, you will not be rich when I began in Helsinki. This was the first message I was told, that you will not become rich when doing neurosurgery. I didn't care. I began to work in neurosurgery. This is my first day, June 3rd, in neurosurgery. Different hairstyle a little bit now, and I'm dictating. And you see that I'm smoking cigarette during dictation. That time it was possible to smoke in Finland, to smoke cigarettes. I know in China, you can still smoke cigarettes in hospital, even if it is forbidden, you are smoking, but now it's impossible. You will be fired if you smoke nowadays in Finland. And when I came now to Helsinki, so it is certainly impossible to smoke anywhere here. So this was the beginning of my neurosurgical career. And how was it in the beginning of 70s? It looked like that because this was microscope came 1975 to Helsinki. So in the beginning it was microsurgery with headlamp, and this is the history of the Finnish neurosurgery. There are 3 professors in the same picture. Professor Gunnar F. Björkesten is operating on. Assistant is my chairman, left in this picture, Henry Trupp, and following is the first professor of neurosurgery, Arne Snellman. something very special in done around the world, and I had learned to use the microscope. So when the seniors began to operate with the microscope, I could help them to lead their hand, support their hand when they began to operate on aneurysms in 1975. And this was how it was. I was working a lot. There was a watch on the wall of the hospital. It had stopped to walk some years ago, and it was never running in 20 or 30 years. I didn't know how long I was, but I was working long days that time. Also, when I was doing my residency, operations without microscope, they were extremely long. They went many times to small hours in the midnight, and only with microneurosurgical experience, the operations became shorter. And I was telling you have to have heroes, but then you have to have mentors. And this is my mentor. Before the time I came 1973. This is Dr. PhD Seppo Pakarinen, late Seppo Pakarinen. He was my senior in Helsinki when I was trained, and he was a good human being, great man. He was always smoking pipe and supporting me in every field, when complications came, showing the first operations, and also whatever I had problems in my life, he was always supporting. And this is what you need, a good mentor to become a good neurosurgeon.
Excuse me, your slide's not moving. Well, there you go, there you go.
Is now?
Yes,
I
it's
was
fine.
speaking. I didn't move the slide.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you see the pipe there. My Dr. Drake was also always smoking pipe, whatever was written on the wall. So this is my life once more. Helsinki Neurosurgery residency, 73, 79, and then PhD on severe head injuries. And then I was searching my place when I became specialist. Why I was searching a place? To operate on a lot of cases. I was in Sweden, in Kuopio, Eastern Finland, in Helsinki, and finally I selected Kuopio, where I was 17 years. And then from Kuopio, I made several visits to Professor Yasakil, also fellowship to London, Ontario, and Miami to Professor Drake and Peerless. And in Kuopio, I could operate on a lot of cases and difficult cases. Even I was very young neurosurgeon. This is 1982. Giant AVM on the right temporal lobe. I could do because I read my books well. I read everything what Yasarkil and Sukita and some others were writing, and I was operating well with microscope, every operation with microscope. Of course, that kind of lesion would be, even nowadays, extremely difficult to treat for any neurosurgeon in the world. But I was successful, and I made many cases. But it took a lot of time, so it sucked all the hours when training. And then in the 10 years when I was operating in Helsinki, Kuopio, I noted I have to go somewhere else to learn, and I went to Zurich, and then later to London, Ontario, and Miami, and many other places around the world, London also. And this was my first visit in 1982. As a young neurosurgeon, 3 years as a specialist in neurosurgery, I went to Zurich to see Professor Yasakil to operate on. And it changed my life. It was like a miracle how he was doing. He was like Usain Bolt that time, number one, then nothing else, and then some other other neurosurgeons. So it was like a miracle when he was operating difficult cases, touching everything under microscope, this mobile microscope, and extremely heavy discipline in the operation room. You were not coughing, not making any noise because he was throwing you out. This was the mouth switch I learned to use, and this makes your operations very fast. 40% less time. And this was the group that time, young neurosurgeons from around the world, because we were not allowed to speak in the operation room, not make any noise. So we went afterwards to the restaurant. This is Weiser Wind, and then we discussed the wonderful operations of Professor Yasakil. This was good possible to do. And one day this guy, this young Mexican neurosurgeon, Jesus, told, one day we will do better. And we were laughing and thought it is impossible, but all the young generations are getting better. This is how it happens in neurosurgery. Another picture here, these were my heroes also and teachers, late Professor Charlie Drake and Skip Peeles, who is still alive in Florida, and we sometimes write to each other. Skip Peeles asked me, can I help you when I went to London, Ontario? And they both helped me in many ways, because without them, I wouldn't be professor in Helsinki and do my main life work there. So this is Miami, 92. This is Skip Peeles' family. And one of the sons, Drew, he sailed alone around the world after this picture. And this was the book we made in Miami. I was working extremely hard. My children were saying that father is inside the computer, because I was 16 to 18 hours in front of the computer, counting the patients. This was the book on 1,767 patients. Came out 95, forward by Professor Yasakil. Of course, it is old book, but I learned a lot from Professor Drake and Peeles, because I operated every case of them, their cases in my own brain. And I learned a lot also from Professor Drake. I learned that you have to be a good medical doctor, excellent neurosurgeon, and one of the most difficult things is to be a good human being. And this is the weakest place out of these three. But he was a great man. I went very old to make fellowship. I was 45, so Professor Picard from England was writing about me. At the age of 45, this man seems to be happy to analyze surgeries of others. But I learned a lot. I didn't care of that kind of writings. 2002, I went with my fellow Keisuke from Japan to Padua, Italy, to operate on a vertebral junction giant aneurysm on a poor student from Croatia, 4.5 centimeter big aneurysm. And this is see after 2 years after this operation. We operated first 2 MCA aneurysms as a training, and then same day also afternoon this vertebral junction aneurysm in one room. So we did very well, and we went many times to operate on that. She has now, she wrote me that she has married and she's doing well. In a high age, of course, now she's 40. So these were my first fellows, and this is my first connection to China. This is Dr. Hu Shen, who came from Shenyang, China. Now he is Shenzhen. He's retiring as a professor and chairman in Shenzhen. I met him during the one visit there. Then came Keisuke from Japan, and then came Aise from Turkey, and Emel Afsi was also visiting. So these were my first fellows, and this is during the life course in Helsinki. At the life course in Helsinki, this was something very special. It brought the people around the world to come to Helsinki, and I learned a lot from all the people, more than they were learning from me. So this is the multilateral learning. And this is my last big team, the Latino team, because they were mainly speaking Spanish. And 2015, I was going to retire. So before I retired, my fellows were doing the 1001 video book. So this was the last effort there. In the book, Vertebral Bacilla book of the Drake and Peerless, there's a nice quote from famous Francis Bacon, written many 100 years ago. Every man owes it as a debt to his profession to put on record whatever he has done that might be of use to others. Complicated saying, but this means that you have to write down your experience and publish in the modern words. So we did that. So this book was done more than 10 years ago in 2000, end of, I don't remember exactly which year, maybe 13 years ago. It was published, Helsinki Microneurosurgery book with Dr. Lehetska and Aki Laakso. We described everything, how we are doing the neurosurgery in Helsinki, and it has been translated in many languages, in Chinese by Professor Mao Ying, and his team. Subin has been also involved in translating. It is translated in many languages, and this is a practical book, how to do neurosurgery, let's say Helsinki type neurosurgery. So this is how we begin to fly high in Helsinki. This is June 2001. Professor Jäsarkil came to Helsinki. This photo is in June 2001. This left is my chairman, neuroclinic head, neurologist, Professor Markku Kaste, Professor Jäsarkil, Sukru Sakrar, young Turkish neurosurgeon, and me, discussing before Professor Jäsarkil's lecture. And this is 2003, Professor Jäsarkil teaching in Helsinki. You had to listen when he was speaking. You see that we are listening. And here, this is 2003, Professor Jäsarkil at the age of 77 is still making gymnastics to win a difficult brain tumor. The Finnish first female neurosurgeon, Leena Kivipelto, assisting professor there in his operation. And this is the picture. Hu Shen was a great artist. He had very talented in drawing. So he made a picture of Professor Jäsarkil operating on in Helsinki. The picture is here. For me, it looks so that every person in the operation room is Chinese. There is no Chinese person, but the person who is drawing is Chinese. This means that we see the world with different eyes according to our background. This is Hu Shen closing. Why this picture is important? Because we closed under microscope. And this one I couldn't teach in China. No one wanted to close under microscope, except my friend Hugo Andrade. Balacharte was closing under microscope, but the Chinese didn't accept that. Not so many things from my teaching. So, but in Helsinki, there was a live course all the time. As I mentioned, more than 3,000 visitors and icons like Yasakil, Konovalov, Dolen, Salmefti, Spätzle came, and endovasculars came also. Guglielmi and Moret came to visit and treat patients. So this was how it looked in the operation room all the time, 10 or more people following, learning. And this is my successor, Professor Mika Niemelä, with the smallest nurse in Helsinki. Now, the number of operations has increased everywhere in the world. I told that I have been 50 years in neurosurgery. The year I came to neurosurgery in Helsinki, there were 750 operations. When I became chairman, 1,700, and then when I left, there were 3,500 operations. Why is that? Imaging came, CT came, and then MRI, and then, of course, microsurgery is doing possible more difficult operations. There are more neurological resources, treatment methods, and lifetime is nowadays by far more higher than in 70s for some reasons. So, number of operations increasing. I have seen that, of course, also by many visits in China and during my working at Henan Provincial People's Hospital. After the operation is the best time to teach. I'm Yasaki school. I learned not to speak during the operation, and I don't like questions during operations, telephone calls. This is in China is extremely much different. In China, you are shouting and making a lot of noise during the operation, but Yasaki school, no speaking, but after operation, this is the best moment to teach because you are full of adrenaline. Then you make your questions. So, how to think about the situation now? There's heavy control of the surrounding society. We can see each other around the world. So nowadays you cannot continue with the flow of complications and poor surgery. Complications are no fates. They are mainly caused by lack of skills and or knowledge. And you have to be careful with that because you have only one chance. Quite frankly, I have to say now, if open microsurgery wants to survive, you have to be good and efficient. You have to be both. So, how to learn neurosurgery, learning anatomy, seeing operations and videos. You can see a lot of videos, surgical videos, but you have to be critical and you have to see them. If you only own the books or videos, then you are not learning anatomy or surgery. You should assist a lot in operations, discussing, as I say, after operations, and then you begin to do your own operations, and you should spend a lot of time with neurosurgery. And if you have the possibility to go to cadaveric laboratory, this picture is done by Professor Emil Afsi in the clinic of Paskaya Mustafa Paskai, but you can find cadaver lab, good cadaver lab. If you don't have, you should have and build a cadaver lab, but it depends on the culture a lot. So, and then when you operate, you should have a good mobile microscope. Now I know, of course, many young people are saying that exoscope is coming. It's okay. It doesn't change the thing that you have to learn anatomy and you have to you have to treat the lesion. This was what I was using. So mobile microscope with mouthpiece. That's good audiovisual system. So the people in the operation room are seeing everything. You can save all the operations like we did, making photos and then editing and also publishing. And what I have learned in China, you are using chopsticks when you are eating. So you learn to use long instruments. But what I have learned, short instruments, they make everything better. Proper instruments. You don't have to have long instruments when you are superficial operating. So your surgery is better with the short instruments. Manual skills are important. Important is planning, doing clean surgery, effective surgery, many operations you can do a day, and focused microsurgery. Just treat the lesion and only the lesion. There's a lot of discussion that it is dangerous to open the head, and this is one of the things I always heard in China, because in China, Chinese are afraid of the head to be opened. This was not so in Helsinki. I never heard from any patient or surrounding, but in China it's very common. Why it is common? Because endovascular is heavy and it is used against the open microsurgery nowadays, this sentence. So this is the simple lateral supraorbital approach I was using since 80s. And what is important? Flap should be large enough for your skills, for your instruments, and for the lesions, because surgery is not sports. You should not try to go through too small openings. This is dangerous for the patients. And extremely high respect to Helsinki anesthesia. The most important thing in Helsinki was what the visitors were saying. How is the brain slack? And when the brain is slack, then you can do beautiful surgery. So they have their tricks, and anesthesia is very important. Head high when you operate, head high about the cardiac level. This means reduced bleeding. Usually I had no blood reserved because of good anesthesia and this head high policy. And I was moving all the time, the microscope with mouth switch, because if you look with the microscope all the time in the same spot, then the microscope is burning the brain. So I was always using high percentage light, but all the time moving with the mouth switch, the microscope, and since 80s using a lot of tissue glue to stop bleedings in skull base, tumor bed, hot drilling to stop bony bleedings with diamond drill, and high magnification. Highest magnification possible for the microscope since 2007. It is difficult to do, and I had to learn specially to do that, the highest level of the microscope. But, I did that. And where is this picture? This is not from Helsinki. This is from Zhengzhou, Henan Provincial People's Hospital. You see, I was provided the same set, instrumental set, than in Helsinki before I came to Henan Provincial People's Hospital, microscope. The scrub nurse is Ping Chen. She's looking at the screen and she's skillful. We are not speaking, we are just doing surgery. Good team also we could develop, but it takes time. It takes 1 year time to have a good team. So you cannot go everywhere just to operate on. So I thank all the personnel in the 50 years. I had always good teams, and I was maybe one of the most important persons in the team, but you cannot operate alone. So you have to have 5, 6 persons around you to make good surgery. So there are many routes that go to Rome. So what I say, go around, take a look. Neurosurgery is like cooking food. You will see many different ways to operate on. In China, the food is totally different than in Europe, but we are eating it and we are alive. So you should select your way to do the neurosurgery, and you should take the best pieces of neurosurgery, what you can see around. There are many ways to do the same thing, and select and make your own neurosurgery. This was my thinking, slowly developing Helsinki, and this is once more the visitors that came to Helsinki around the world, and I learned so much from them. This is multilateral learning, and of course there are different levels of manual skills. So here it is, the upper picture is Professor Spätzle, one of the editors in your Chinese journal, now visiting Helsinki 2009. I operated pericallosal aneurysm, and below is Tanikawa, is doing bypass surgery in the life course in Helsinki. So there are different levels of manual skills. And what disturbs me in China, and say it now quite frankly, you have excellent neurosurgeons in China, but you are not publishing, and you should publish your large series. This is extremely important because you have excellent neurosurgeons. This is one of my heroes, Konovalov in Moscow. I'm honorary professor at Burdenko. This is not important. Important is that he was my hero with this extremely great surgical experience. This is World Neurosurgery. You can see also Professor Zhao here, down, and I'm here. What are these people? This is 69 best neurosurgeons in the last 100 years. So this is good company. I'm in good company with Professor Cushing, Yasarkil, Drake, Sami, etc., Atul Goel. So, good microsurgery. I'm speaking a lot, but I could speak by far longer. I try to reduce below 1 hour. Only training makes a master. Then you should eliminate the tremor, and you should analyze your own experience. You should learn English. You should publish. Chinese neurosurgeons learn English because you have beautiful series, big series. You should teach the world. And please, when the pandemic is over, take a look and travel. I have learned so much traveling around the world. Neurosurgery is not different from soccer, sports, playing violin, learning a new language or writing. Hard training is needed, and this is important. So this is old rule, 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours training, you will come to world top. And this is my rule, with 10,000 days in operation room, you will be at the best of your career. This is very important. So if you are done 100 times an operation, then you are not experienced. You have to do it 1,000 times. And this means repetitions are the glue in neurosurgery. You should look around east and west, north and south. You should look around the world now, Japan, China, Korea, India, Russia, etc. Everywhere now in the world is extremely good neurosurgery done, and you should go around. Ask for good places. There are many, and discuss where good neurosurgery is done and go there to learn. Not the walls, but the team is doing the work. It is not important to have that kind of fine hospital. It is important to be effective and good in the operation room. You should train your best young people they should become better than you. This is the principle. Of course, the younger generation is getting better because they are standing on our shoulders. Problems in training, 3 problems. Time. To become a good neurosurgeon, you have to spend a lot of time in neurosurgery. Working time regulations in Europe are not good to make high-level neurosurgeons. 37 hours a week working time means that you have to do a lot of off-job training, read anatomy, train manual skills, look videos, recordings. If you can draw, this is a drawing of Hussein, 2000 from aneurysm operation. Beautiful drawing. We use these drawings in our publications, and I have seen many neurosurgeons in China are very good in drawings. The drawings are like honey. They make the paper to be accepted. And if you cannot draw, then make records, make own photos. You can analyze them and learn anatomy. So you have to learn planning of the operations and mental training. You have to make the operations in your mind and how to optimize training. I'm coming soon to the end. I may see that you are getting nervous. Discuss your problems when you are trained in neurosurgery. You should share your troubles with somebody you trust, and this is the mentor. You should work hard, do also unpleasant jobs well, assist a lot, then you see a lot, and smell the blood, I say. You will learn the neurosurgery, learn from others, learn also from nurses, and cooperate well, because you have to know that no one can be a neurosurgeon, a trained neurosurgeon alone. So, finally, life is easier now than 50 years ago. There's very many ways sharing of the experience. I'm speaking a lot of traveling. Nowadays, you don't have to travel. Of course, the pandemic made us to learn different ways. John Bennett helped us to make webinars, and we can get the experience from the best neurosurgeons around the world through webinars. In internet is full of knowledge, but you have to be critical. There's full of knowledge, but there's not a lot of wisdom in the internet. So you have to be critical with internet, and also with the internet surgery. I heard about the many neurosurgeons in internet, and they are giving advice how to operate on. This is not very wise, because you don't know many times who is giving your advice and how are the conditions in the operations room. So internet neurosurgery might be also dangerous. Audiovisual techniques are better, operative videos you can have, and training is maybe better nowadays. Life surgery courses go down. The Helsinki, famous Helsinki life course is finished now. Who is continuing? Baro is continuing, Sapporo is continuing, Istanbul is continuing, some famous places. So the meccas are changing their places, and I thank you very much. Sorry if I spoke too much to flat penis. You noted I didn't show the last Mohican slide. So, but I say, kiitos, thanks, seiseni.
Thank you, Professor Honisniemi. Thank you for your amazing presentation and your very good suggestions for the Chinese neurosurgeon. And that's also our purpose for Dr. Yuan Li and me. And we also want to promote this Chinese neurosurgical journal and made our Chinese neurosurgeons work, introduce their work to the world. Thank you again.
Thank
So
you very
now
much.
yeah.
I have to say that Dr. Supin came many times to Helsinki life course. So he was first my student, then he was my neurosurgical colleague, and now he's my hero because he is one of the
You are
most
my
effective
hero.
team leaders in the world. He has done more than 10,000 bypasses, so he's certainly the leading bypass surgeon in the world. So this is how to do, to begin. And one of the important things is to have connections around the world and learn English and publish. And now when the pandemic is over, so certainly the people are coming to Huashan Hospital to learn from you and others in Huashan Hospital. King Mao is the chairman there, and also I have been in the Tiantan Hospital. Didn't visit the new buildings, but when I'm allowed to come to China, the pandemic is heavy now also in China, and also now the war in Ukraine is preventing flying easily to China. So I hope I can visit China. We will see each other. But thank you very much for everything, for supporting my time in China, and we remain in good connection. I hope my memories can be translated in Chinese. They will come in September 1st out, then there is a translation in English, and then you can translate in Chinese. So this is the plan.
Yeah, that's for sure.
500 pages.
Thank you.
500 pages in Finnish, but in Chinese maybe for 350, because Chinese writing is so short.
Yes. So now Yuanli,
Hi.
time to go to you.
Yeah, thank you, Johan. Wish you can come back China as early as possible.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Last
Yes.
speaker tonight will be the lady, Miss Lee. She's the publishing director of Springer Nature Publisher, and she will give us a talk about how to publish with the Springer Nature, one of the best publisher in the world. Thank you.
Thank you for your introduction, Dr. Zhao. So I just share my screen first. Is it working?
Yes.
Okay. So
Do you want to put on
it's very-
presentation mode?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's not on presentation mode yet. There
Yeah.
you go. Perfect.
Okay, so my name is Joyce Lee. I'm the publishing director for Springer Nature in the Greater China region. And I have been working with Yuan Li and other people on Chinese Neurosurgical Journal from the very beginning. So that's how I am personally connected to the neurosurgery community, which I feel it's always a pleasure to serve with different communities we work as publishers. So today I'm just going to give you a very, very brief overview of who we are at Springer Nature. I'm sure some of you are our authors and our reviewers and our editors as well. Not just for our journals, but also with our books publishing as well. So I also want to thank you for all your support. Without further ado, so I just want to, so in our business, Springer Nature as a publisher, to be known by maybe many of you in the audience today, we are a publisher for journals, but we also publish books. Excuse me. And that's the research business is the biggest part. Sorry, is the biggest part in our business, but we also have the education department which focus on language learning, and we also have some international curriculum. I understand our audience is very international, so our education part is very strong in, for example, Mexico and in some other area. We also have our professional business, which is concentrated in Europe. So as you have known, some of our journal brands, we are very proud with many of the brands, especially in journal community we publish, such as Nature, but we also are very proud to have a BMC, which is a pioneer in open access publishing now maybe 20-25 years ago. And we also have Springer, which have 175 years of history, covering many disciplines. There are different kind of areas we are trying to focus, but that's what makes us very proud as a publisher, because that's how we connect with our communities. And as you can see, we are very international, and I'm very much in agreement with what Yuha has mentioned about the importance of connecting in today's world, especially. And I think as publisher or in the publishing industry, we carry this commitment to make sure science research is always connected. And that's how we place our staff to be closer to the community. As I mentioned, for Springer Nature, one thing has always remained true, which is to help researchers advance the discovery and making their findings accessible, to support them and make sure we understand their needs, you know, and just to bridge a lot of communication in the scientific community, but also in the clinical community. And some of the quick facts about Springer Nature as a company. So we have over 10,000 staff, and just for the research business. And you can see we have a network of many editors and reviewers and authors, and we receive lots of submissions over a year. Like in 2020, we published 370 million articles in a year, but also you can see a lot of them are open access. So that's some very basic facts, but at the same time, for our audience, especially in the Europe, you will be more aware of our activities in the transitioning to open access process, such as the project deal we signed with Germany as the largest transformative deal to respond to the funder requirements and to support the transparency and easier communication of research results. So we are very much leading in that field to support the development of scientific communication. And when we speaking about open science, it's not just about open access, but it's also about data, you know, how we make sure our data is reusable. And in the medicine and life science community, reproducibility is very important. And in clinical community, how can we make sure we follow the standard reporting process is also very important. So with some study, we discovered for open access publishing, it brings more like visibility to the articles authors publish. For example, we have seen 6 times more downloads and 1.6 times more of citations from the articles published by Springer Nature. And you can see in 8 European countries, 70% of the content published with those with authors from those countries are already open access. for Springer Nature. And also with the community, there's another big theme in Springer Nature's commitment, which is to support the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So in our publishing program, we also try to attach the significance of the journals we publish to some of the societal challenges, or at least with the scientific community, we are making joint efforts trying to support the research around those important topics, and we also trying to advance our technology to support the discoveries. But of course, as a company, we also operate as a responsible business and we also release annual report on our activities around that. So like the next part, I would just want to briefly mention to you about our journal program in not just in neurosurgery, actually, like it also covers neurology and some parts of the neuroscience. So you can see I just list a few points here, and you can see we have a strong portfolio of over 150 journals in neurosurgery, neurology, and neuroscience for our authors to choose based on their specific expertise, discipline, but also in terms of the scope and threshold of different journals. We are just trying to make sure there's always a home for your clinical research or case reports. And we have 81 journals with impact factor in the category of clinical neurology and neuroscience. 1/3 of those journals ranking Q1 in journal citation reports. But of course, we also have a lot of new launch journals which still haven't received impact factors, such as Chinese Neurosurgery, Neurosurgical Journal, but we do see a lot of potential, and we definitely call for your support to those journals which is designed to support your clinical communication. And of course, we also have a lot of broad scope medical journals, but some of them are more focusing on basic research, such as Nature Medicine. But we also have some, for example, Nature Communications, like it covers a very, very broad scope in our scientific topics. So this is just to give you a flavor of what we publish. And in terms of, like how we see us as a publisher, the roles we play, we feel it's very important to make sure that the content, the great content you submit to us, we publish, they are being seen to the wider audience. So the displaying and highlighting of the content on our platform is always very, very important to us. So I just showcase a few things we've done for different journals. We do cover papers, and we also put on special collections on the journal website, also to facilitate better access to audience which are who are interested in a specific topic. And you can see we also, in terms of our supporting our authors, like with our subscription content, we have shared it, which means you can actually share your work to your colleagues, to people who don't have necessary subscription to Springer Nature content, but they can use this just to share the content so people can read. But of course, they can't download the PDF. But for our open access content, you can always access them no matter where you are. But we also have Arcade and Research Square, which is providing a preprint server, because I remember Dr. Pan just mentioned about, you know, the importance of transparency in peer review. So we also have a lot of journals with the more like with very transparent transparent peer review model, and especially in the medicine communities. And I think people more or less welcome that transparent approach. But we also have Research Square provide a very sort of transparent author dashboard, so people can have better sense of when they submit the article, they have better sense of where it is. So the submissions do not end up with a black box. So you will know, oh, my article is sent out for reviewer, or my editor is still looking for reviewers and he tried several times, but still more reviewers are still being looked for. Those kind of information to keep authors having more ownership of the submissions, but also to facilitate the transparency in the publishing process. And also, as I mentioned, making sure the content we publish have the widest visibility is very, very important. So we, for our marketing team, we actually do a lot of work to, for example, we do a lot of search engine optimization to make sure people can find your article easier by keyword search. But we also have journal article alerts. So if you go to one of the Springer Nature journal website, you can very easily sign up to journal alerts. So for example, I also encourage you to sign up the journal alert for the Chinese Neurosurgical journal. So you will receive those newsletters when we have articles published from time to time. But of course, we especially with the younger generation, a lot of discussions around scientific topics that happen on social media. So we have, we have different social media accounts trying to facilitate those discussions. And we also, because benefiting from our very wide staff network, we also have, for example, in China, we have a team working on Chinese social media. But of course, we also do a lot of traditional email campaign, but we understand that has been working less. But you can tell me like how you wish to be informed of, you know, something happening around journals. You know, those are the like suggestions we are always welcoming to hear to improve our service to you as our most important audience. And you can see for our journal content, we have a very diverse audience spread out, and more in America, but also in Europe, Asia, but Asia Pacific and Africa also have a good amount of readers and visitors to our website. And so you can see we don't just publish more articles, but we can also see a trend in the number of downloads or the usage from the articles we publish. And that's quite obvious, especially for, I think 2020 is a special year because of the pandemic related research, and I think that's true for many publishers. We have seen a very spike in terms of submissions, but also usage to our journal content, especially. But in general, there's a very steady growing trend in terms of how your content published with Springer Nature journals are being consumed and used by your communities. And the last, maybe that's not the last one, sorry. So we also offer the so-called transfer service, and to put it simple, so when an author submits to the journal, you feel you would like to submit, but maybe editors feel, oh, it's out of scope, or, you know, like maybe there's another journal fits you better. So we have a dedicated team to offer those kind of service to try to find another home for your research with better targeted and data-driven suggestions for you to to avoid the hassles of, you know, going around trying to find another journal to submit. So that has been working quite well. And for Springer Nature, we are also developing a new editorial system. Like once we are able to put all of our journals on that submission system, I think we will be able to provide a more efficient and easy service to all of our authors. And last but not least, so like I still want to go back to our journal, the Chinese Neurosurgical Journal. I know Dr. Zhang has just introduced how we develop, and I just want to show you some milestone we have. It's not easy for clinical journals, and I know like maybe many of the people here are also very experienced editors, and I personally have learned a lot by working on this journal, and there are a lot of proud moments we celebrated for the journal. And it there's, I think for a lot of us working on publishing journals, especially for our academia editors and reviewers, it's probably more mission driven, because I know everyone has a full-time job and very busy. So I think, but like publishing a successful journal to serve the needs of the community is always very rewarding, as I understand from many of my editors. And so I just still want to encourage you to continue to support this journal, to read the articles we publish, and I'm sure we're very open to your suggestions for, you know, either new things we want to try out, or, you know, better ways to serve the neurosurgery community as a whole, but not just in China, but we definitely set our ambition and target on the international community. And that's just something I want to share. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank all of our editorial board members here at the meeting today, and thank you for your hard work and your continuous support. Thank you. And that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Joyce. Okay, I think that's all for the speakers tonight. And are there any comments from our panel guests? Professor Poon, actually, I have a question about your talking. Just as you said, even the journal, the Lancet, just start the peer review system in recent 30 years, right? So do you think in the future, is there any possible for the change? I mean, maybe we don't need any more review, and just everyone can publish what they want to publish. the now we have the I don't know. I forgot how to say it. That's the research square as Joyce. Do you know that? Yeah, the pre-review publish system, right? I don't know if it will be the next generation of the publishing system. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, nowadays, peer review has become a little it becomes a label of a good research project and a good paper. So the question is whether we should speed it up. Some very efficient journal, their submission to accepted for a publication time is only 4 or 5 weeks. And as we all know, some journals, some old-fashioned journal can take up to 6 months to a year for publication. And that really kills quite a lot of graduate students. They can't qualify, they can't find a job. So there must be a way to speed up the review process. And I think within a few weeks should be the maximum. I think all the reviewers and the chief editor should have that in mind, because anything beyond a few months, the study will be outdated. So I think timely review and timely publication is the key. Now, if you've got unlimited resources to write a book, then you don't need a review. To get invited to write a book would be something that you can write what you want without being reviewed. And I think the thing you talk about when you have a well-planned study and you registered and you let the journal, usually Lancet or New England Journal of Medicine, they pre-review your sort of pilot study or your registered study, and I think those are meaning that the review process has started, well before you have the full data, and I think that on itself it's a very serious review. So one can't say that is a paper published without being reviewed. And I think peer review is still the premium process to guarantee a good paper. And so far, I hope I answered your question.
If I may say something as well, I very much agree to Professor Pan on this topic, because I think with the growth of a lot more preprint content, it's a good thing, because in a competitive fields, it's better maybe for people to see what's happening, then we have more time for peer review, because I still feel, especially for the medical content, the publishers and editors are doing a lot more work in the ethics and reporting standards. There are a lot more values we are putting into this process, no matter apart from the peer review quality of the research itself. But I think we need to be very careful, and there has been a lot of debate in the academia, but also in the publishing industry about what's the future of publishing, is it preprint? But I think we have seen a lot of cases in the pandemic, with preprint, that draws people concern in some extent. So I still feel the value of peer review is there, but like I think there's a big question for both academia and publishers. It's like, how can we improve it? Is it still the same way to do the peer review process? And for us as publishers, we definitely want to support. For example, we are for Spring Nature, we are actually working with some AI company to make sure we can provide better service to our editors to find, like more suitable reviewers in a short period of time, but also that to save a lot of labor from, I know many of you receive many invitations from different journals every day, perhaps. So I think it's like still a topic to discuss, but I also very much hold high value for the peer review. But I also we're very open to the new format, and we are also working with a lot of print servers to see like how to better serve the author's needs, and also to the register reports, as Professor Pan mentioned, rolling out by many of the top level journals. BMC actually has tried it from many years ago, and there's, as Professor Pan mentioned, there's very specific peer review process when people submit their research plan, and the research will need to be rolled out as specifically explained in the plan. So the point is to address a question of whether can we publish negative results. So that's a good, that's how this model has been developed in the first place. So like once your research plan, the register reports is accepted by a journal, no matter the data is, they will publish it, as long as the experiment is rolling out in the same way. So there are many new ways trying to explored by journals and publishers to support the development of research. And yeah, that's just something I want to add.
Is Dr. Lanzino here? Dr. Lanzino?
Thank you. So are there any comments?
I'm sorry.
I'm here.
Could you comment, welcome, Dr. Lanzino from Mayo Clinic. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
No, it has been a really comprehensive overview of all different aspects of publishing. I don't have any specific comment, except that, of course, it's very exciting what's going on with the Chinese Journal of Neurosurgery. As Professor Ernest Niemi said, it's there are a lot of things that we can learn from the Chinese colleagues, because many of them have already unsurpassed experiences. And at the same time, to have a journal that encourages contributions from other parts of the world as well, I think that it's a welcome addition. It's very important, as it has been stressed, to try as much as possible to speed up the review process. And also the other thing I would recommend is that because there are already so many submissions, as we have seen, it's important also to be selective so that you can maintain very high quality. One issue that I've noticed with some neurology, neuroscience journals is at times the lack of consistency. Like one author might get a paper rejected only to see a very similar manuscript to be published in the same journal. And I think that it's important especially at the highest levels of the editorial process, that there is some degree of active oversight where the section editors or they really take an active role in overseeing the entire process and to make sure that there is consistency, because I think it's something very important. And another thing I've noticed that sometimes lacks, and says I bring it up as a suggestion, for the same reason, it's very important from the leadership of the editorial staff to really give or suggest some directions to the reviewers in terms of which papers should be. It's not only a matter of quality. Sometimes, with journals, they get a variety of different papers, and it's important to be clear in terms of what should be given priority. Is it only novelty? What about a large series from a well-known neurosurgeon that might not have a lot of novelty, but might be important even from a historical point of view to see published. So I think it's great what's going on. It's a natural evolution of the diffusion of knowledge, and I wish my colleagues well, and I'm sure that we will hear more and more about their journal.
Dr. Goel, are you there, Dr. Goel? You want to comment?
Yeah, of course.
You want to comment?
No, nothing more to add, but I can only convey my best wishes to the Chinese Neurosurgical Society. I know about China. I know I have many friends in China, and I know how much contributions they have been making and they have already made. You see, now gone are the days where English was a problem. Oh, I don't understand English. I don't know English. I cannot write English. Those days are, those are history. Now, what we have to do is to introduce ideas, introduce thoughts, introduce concepts, introduce philosophies, introduce techniques. And that is what I'm sure, you see, I have no doubt that this journal is going to grow. This journal is going to progress, and this journal is going to become the leader of world neurosurgery. Only thing is, we have to, as Giuseppe has mentioned, that we have to be consistent, we have to be regular, we have to be quick, and we have to be, accommodating to people from all over the world. We have to be like neutral umpires, and we have to, just go ahead. And this journal is already an established journal. And I see that there are many people on the panel who are editors of various journals, and senior people like Juha is here giving advices. So you have a big editorial board panel who can be, can just give you some kind of information and some kind of, guidance. Essentially, I am also in editor panel of World Neurosurgery. Now I see the articles from China are the maximum in the whole world. They have overseeded American articles. So I know about my own journal, Journal of Craniovertebral Junction and Spine. The Chinese article are, coming on a regular basis. So I have no doubt with the education system of China, with the neurosurgical system of China, with the inter-neurosurgeon competition in China. And, in one department, there are 150 neurosurgeons. Everyone is competing with the other to produce more articles. Every department is competing with other department in China. I know China very well, and I can see a big, bright future. And I hope I can be party to that growth of Chinese neurosurgery. and the China journal, this Journal of Neurosurgery. My best wishes to all of you, and I hope and I wish that this companionship and this journal will grow to greater heights in the future. Thank you very much for inviting me on this beautiful occasion.
Okay, Michael Segru, are you there, Michael?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, Michael, you want to comment? And could you please introduce yourself and welcome, Michael?
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Shagru. I'm sure some people know me. I'm in Sydney, Australia, from the United States originally. And I think a couple things that I think are worth going to. So to bring up the comment about preprint servers, I'm completely against them. I think they're terrible for science. And if you want the best examples of it, there were numerous papers that were published that made a big splash with the anti-vaccine. They did damage to, arguments of people who could use this to convince people to not get vaccinated against COVID-19 that were never past peer review. So we have to, as editorial board, stand strong and say, we need to make sure that our peer review process makes those kind of things unnecessary. Because really, if we believe peer review is important, and I think everyone here does, we need to hold ourselves to that. And to that end, I think I can give some advice on what I have found that's helpful editing journals to kind of defend that. And part of it is that a good editorial process screens a lot of things before they get in. We're editors, we have a good idea about what are low quality work that we shouldn't demoralize and drain the resources, because reviewing a lot of low quality papers really undercuts people's belief in the journal. It hurts the impact factor, and some of those things get through that shouldn't. And so it's really important that we as editors take an effort to really get rid of things that shouldn't be, we don't have a question that they shouldn't be published. And I think that when you do that and you manage a good process where I really have tools to identify who are the people who actually respond to reviews and get them done quickly, that's really important from the publishers, but also running an orderly and efficient process. Well, we can't always guarantee this is going to be 2 weeks. We can get this down to a month or a month and a half instead of 6 months. And so what I found that a lot of times there's very big differences, and particularly the more modern journals have gotten more efficient at providing editors the tools to really get this done as quickly as possible. When we have peer review processes that are efficient, we don't need to go work around this process. And I think it's just better for everybody, because things that aren't really going to be competitive at the journal, they have an opportunity to go somewhere else or figure out what they need to do better. We don't have our journals overloaded with, reporting esoteric tumor cases that really aren't going to necessarily move the field forward. And we keep our reviewers engaged so that they actually find something valuable out of editing it. And I think if we do those kind of processes, we're really going to have a good, strong peer review process and a good, strong journal.
Thank you, Michael. Back to you, Ben.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Dr. Hassan, are you there? Thank you, Professor Lenzino and Michael, and thank you for your suggestions. And our plan is we will select some authors and presented their works on this platform every 2 weeks on the Sunday night.
Yeah, we would love to televise that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Yuan Li.
Hi, yeah, thank you, everyone. So I think it's a good start, and yeah, as Dr. Shi said, we plan to have this meeting start from today. There will be every 2 weeks. We want to host a special journal meeting. It's a kind of a special channel on Neurosurgical TV, and every time we will invite 2 or 3 speakers to introduce what they published on the journal, and also some experience about publishing or some or and also we want to invite some editors to introduce.
Yes, the lines of communication are open. We'll listen to ideas from Ben and from Wan Li and whoever. Is there anything else, Ben, do you want to go over or?
Yeah, so thank you, everybody. And now the night is quite late, and after we organize the next seminar, we will give you the flyer, and
Okay,
2 weeks later, and still the Sunday night, 8 p.m.
okay.
You're welcome to attend us, and we will move on.
We'll make
Thank
it a
you.
regular event.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ben, for putting all this together, and thank you, Wan Li and Dr. Joyce Lee, and Yuha, you still there? You still here, Yuha, right?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. You any party words?
Thank you very
Yuha?
much.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I have one message.
Go ahead.
Writing is terrible job. It is wonderful to operate on, but to write down is terrible. So it is very difficult. I know only one thing that is more difficult is to make a database. To make a database is the worst thing. Then writing, scientific writing is coming, and everybody wants to operate on. This is wonderful. This is our life. This is what we are doing, and we love to do. But one thing is important. When you write down your experience and publish, you are getting by far better surgeon, neurosurgeon. This is very important. So you should learn English, publish in English, write down your experience. And this is big experience in China. You should publish your large series. So thank you very much.
Okay, that's a good message to leave on. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, John. Thanks to
Okay,
everybody.
Victor, thank you, Victor.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna